Hey, it's Gavin here, and if you're using Zapier webhooks because you want to send information to another service, and that service doesn't require authentication, I'm going to show you when you'd want to do that, when you'd want to be sending information out, how you can do that. But in this video, I'm not going to show you how to handle that response. If you're expecting information to come back, I'm not going to cover how to actually handle that information. We're going to do that in another video. But if that's what you're looking for, just to get set up in a few minutes, then let's jump right into it.
So I've kept this example very simple just to explain the concepts, because even as you build bigger and bigger Zaps, the concepts are still the same. So in this example, all I've got is just two steps. I've got a trigger of a new row in a spreadsheet. I just chose a random trigger because it's not a real example really. And then in the second step, I've got the webhook that we're going to be using. But in this case, normally what you often see with webhooks is they're in the first step. They're catching information coming in, and that's what triggers the Zap. But in this case, when you use your webhook beyond the first step, so in this situation, I got it in my second step. When you use it that's not in the first step, you're going to be able to send information out. And that's really what we're going to be doing here. So just a quick explanation. When it comes to the web and the internet, there are two important request types. And one is called a GET request. And the name is a bit self-explanatory. We are fetching data. It usually means we are not having any impact on an outside system. We're not changing anything. But with a POST request, it's kind of like you're sending mail. You are including some information to the service that you're making that request to. And often you're going to be having an impact on the system as well. Maybe you're creating an object, or you are triggering another sequence. So on that note, that is some of the use cases of why we would use a webhook with a POST request in our Zap, because we might want to say trigger another Zap with a webhook, which I've actually done in this example. I've set up another webhook, which is where we're going to be sending our POST request to. But in theory, we could just use it to trigger another sequence. And another example would be maybe we're sending information to an API that doesn't have an integration with Zapier, but they have an API. So we can do an integration that way and still send the information we need. Or we're even sending information to an API we've created because we want to say have an effect on a system of our own. So we create an API that we can send information to. So just to quickly show you where we're going to be sending information to, as I said, I set up a very simple webhook here, and this is in the first step. So it is accepting incoming information. And you can see here, that's the link, because you're going to see that pop up later on now. And then you got the trigger, obviously. So in this example, in the first step, I've got the webhook. I've selected post from the 4 options. So I choose post. And remember, posting is when we want to include something in the object. And there's a lot here, but for the simple examples, we don't really need to look at too much. So in this example, you'll see I've got the same URL that I had in the webhook over here, because that's where we want to be sending information to. And in this case, what you're often going to choose is JSON. JSON is just a data format that pretty much every API supports these days, and that's what every API is built with. And this is the data. So for each left-hand value, we give a right-hand our right-hand value as well. And the left-hand value is what we're going to be able to pick out, and the right-hand value is what we're actually sending. So if I wanted to add another value, so we say surname Johnson or something like that. And you actually don't need to worry about any of this for this simple example. So as I was going to mention in another video, we're going to do with authentication, but in this case, there's no authentication. There's no API key or anything like that. Normally, if there is an API key, the API key will go in either the headers, or at times you might include it in the parameters like that. But in this case, we don't have an API key. There's no authentication, etc., etc. So in this example, literally the next step, I can just go say test action, and you see I've already tested it, successfully tested again. And now this is where I just sent information to. So I'm going to retest this. And number B, and there you go. The 2 values I just sent came through. And say, for example, I wanted to use that in the next step, just to show you how the left hand and the right hand values work. And you will see over here, it shows up like any other fields that we normally see with Zapier when they get passed from the previous step. So that is really all there is to it when it comes to a simple post request that doesn't have any info, that doesn't require any authentication. Just to show you that again, so you have the URL, that's the important part, and then you have the actual information here, which comes at a key value, and that's how we see Zaps all the time. But if we were going to need some authentication, that will come in the bottom half here, but we're going to cover that in another video. So if you found this video useful, I'd obviously really appreciate a thumbs up. It helps my videos get to more people like yourself, and I can then help other people automate their business, save time with Zapier, and really not be too stressed about the learning process. And to take that even further, I've actually created a Zapier Jumpstart guide, which is a completely free guide. And what it includes is things that I really think someone who's new to Zapier or someone who's learning Zapier really needs to know and or understand, that's going to make building more complex apps a lot easier. It stops them from stumbling over some of these common things which maybe they would spend hours on. So I've put those all together into a short guide, and it's completely free. You can find that in the description. Just click over it and you can grab your copy of it straight away, no strings attached. So until next time, cheers.